How's it going, everybody? Christmas Eve is upon us, so I hope you're all hunkered down with a stiff drink, some good food, warmth, and some fond company. As I slip into that mode myself, I thought I would just try and trot out a couple more reviews before Christmas morning here. So first off, I'm going to talk about an older Christmas slasher film from 1983 called Bloodbeat. And this is easily the most bonkers viewing experience I had this holiday season as far as horror is concerned. Between the poster art and the premise alone, just try to tell me that this shouldn't have been like a heavy metal comic story or something like that. This totally feels like the plot from one of those lurid adult sci-fi / fantasy comic magazines, like front and back. A young couple attends a family Christmas at a home out in the sticks, but a ghost in a samurai suit starts killing members of the family and their neighbors. And it's worth noting that at least 2 members of this particular family are psychic. Still with me? Okay. Well, you know, I'll admit that for about the first third of the movie or so, maybe the opening act-ish, that kind of territory, I was kind of with it. There were things about it that felt a little bit off and amateurish, but I did at least like that right off the bat, this felt like a movie that, as far as slashers are concerned, was interested in other things besides just, jump-starting the gore. There's a fair amount of effort put into developing the psychological profile of the lead girl, Sarah. The way the director uses soft light and shadow to create an ethereal mood, along with some really nice wide shots looking through mist and fog at the trees in the forest. It's good at creating an atmosphere that feels very authentic, while simultaneously creating a building sense of menace that is put together through just the simple editing of shots. But then from there we get into more of the heart of the story, and that samurai shows up. And while things do not get boring from there, this movie is always interesting if nothing else. It's not always interesting in a good way. First of all, the deliberate, effective nature of the cinematography and the editing kind of gives way as we get into the second act, and things become progressively more unpredictable in terms of the camera angles that are being used, and it oftentimes feels a little bit desperate because it sort of feels like the style is sort of shifting almost from scene to scene. And you get some very amateurish acting, which earlier on and in some of the samurai-centric segments of the film isn't such a big deal. It feels a little bit more par for the course. But there's certain character relationships that the movie clearly wants you to take very seriously. There's a scene where the mother and her boyfriend have this dramatic argument that is so poorly acted and ham-fisted and very sort of stiffly read and delivered that you almost want to hide behind your own chair out of embarrassment for the actors. In fact, throughout the whole movie, the acting is a little bit weird. There's moments where all the members of the cast seem to be inhabiting things with a more authentic, grounded sense of emotion, but that's very scattershot. I don't even really know how to describe it other than it feels like this movie was originally filmed in a foreign language, and then they brought in the voice cast to actually act out the parts that they were dubbing into English because the original cast all jumped ship at the last minute. And I know for a fact that's not what happened, but that's what it feels like when you're watching these actors throughout the majority of the movie. For being built up as a slasher, the violence feels very underwhelming. There is one shot where you get a little bit more coverage of a blade penetrating someone's torso, but by the looks of things, I think they blew all their gore effects budget on that 1 3-second shot. The rest is almost all just seeing the immediate aftermath of a murder, or the actual cut takes place just off camera. For what those overlay animated effects to give people like the look of, psychic rays coming out of their fingers, and that blue shimmer that's around the samurai warrior a lot of the time, for what that really registers as for the most part, They would have been much better off reserving that money and pumped it into making the gore in those kill scenes a little bit more effective. I don't need everything to be off the wall, over the top blood and guts, but a little bit more work just to make those kills competent might actually make this villain scary instead of just sort of quizzical and goofy. For all the caterwauling, there really is no story here at all. It's very strange. It's like someone was striving to make another Black Christmas ripoff, and then a couple days into production, David Lynch and Ed Wood both showed up and took over. And it's funny because I remember thinking while I was watching this one, like, what kind of goddamn batshit acid trip influenced this screenplay? And then when I read about it afterwards, lo and behold, Wikipedia states that the writer-director Fabrice Sange-Zafaratos, I hope I got that right, he was, quote, under the influence of drugs during at least some of the writing process and the filming. And he has stated that the film's title, Bloodbeat, is a reference to the accelerated heartbeat experienced while high. That certainly tracks. I mean, did I mention that there's also a psychic sexual connection between Sarah and the samurai when he's murdering people? If this movie was off the wall in all the right ways, I would call it a Christmas diamond in the rough. As it stands, it's more of a lump of coal that is still burning flame in all the colors of the rainbow or something. Because it is a hot mess if there ever was one. Like, holy crap. I could almost recommend it if you're in the mood to watch something with some friends. Just get yourselves drunk off rum and eggnog and laugh at all the nonsense happening on screen, and you'll probably have a good time. And that's all I have to say about that one. I can't necessarily tell you to go out of your way to watch it, but if you're drunk or under the influence otherwise, you might get some amusement out of it. And with that, I think I'm gonna just skip on ahead and go record one more review. Hope you're all having an awesome Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas if I don't see any of you before then. And you'll be hearing from me again before the day is out. Take care.